Hello, my name's Kaz, and if you're new to the channel, welcome. Now, with Classic launch just around the corner, I thought it was time to sit down and kind of talk about the things that I personally was doing in preparation for the launch of World of Warcraft Classic. Now, just to give you a little background in terms of where I'm looking to go and what this guide will kind of cater to, my plan is to try to reach max level, so level 60, within the first 2 to 3 weeks. I'm not going to be one of those guys that's pushing for a week 1 rag kill. That's above my capability and my understanding of the game. But I'm certainly looking to push the game a bit more than your average player, and I'm certainly looking to progress through raids and things of that nature as we're going through. Now, this guide is going to be designed for people that are similar to me or maybe a little more casual, but the things that I'm going to talk about here and the things that I've been doing will certainly give you a slight edge as you're going into this new version of the old version of World of Warcraft. Now, obviously, one of the obvious or seemingly obvious choices that you need to make when you're preparing for World of Warcraft is just simply deciding what you're going to play. Now, keep in mind that you can only play one faction per server, so if you have a bunch of friends that are choosing a particular server and they're all rolling Horde or they're all rolling Alliance, and you want to play with them, you're kind of forced to roll the same thing that they are for that particular server. But above and beyond that, we need to think about our race and class combinations. Now, I'm going to pull up a graphic from my previous WoW Classic guide that I put together, just to kind of show you the race class combinations here, because if you're one of the retail players, you've been playing a lot of WoW in the last couple of years, you'll notice that a lot of the options for race class combos have changed, or just simply didn't exist back then. So definitely take the time to think about what it is that you want to play and make sure that that particular race class combination is available. Bear in mind, again, that if you're looking to play a Shaman, you will be playing Horde, because Shamans are not available for the Alliance. Vice versa, if you're looking to play a Paladin, you're going to be playing Alliance because Paladins were not available for the Horde. So now, if you're still finding yourself like looking at this and you don't exactly know what to do, what I would encourage you to do would be to just get out there and look at some of the guides. Wowhead.com has a classic WoW page that has some really, really good guides out there, and I'm not sponsored or anything. I just use their content quite a bit. And just kind of get a feel for the way the classes play, because things were very different back then. If you play a Warlock now like I do, Warlocks behave quite differently back then. If you play, I don't know, a Paladin or something like that, as we were talking about, they were very different back then, is the ability to kind of hybrid a little bit of healing, a little bit of damage, a little bit of tankiness, things of that nature. The game was different. So kind of get a feel for what you want to do. And really have an idea if you're looking to get ahead, have that sealed in your brain. Me personally, I've been struggling over this question for quite a while, and I finally come to the conclusion that I'm going to play Alliance this time around, even though I've been a long-time Horde player, simply because the storyline's a little bit different. The scenery's different, the questing zones are different, the quests themselves are different. So while it'll be a replay of a game that I've loved for years, it'll be a fresh experience for me, because my soiree in the Alliance land all took place after Cataclysm, when the world had changed and the quests had changed. I'm also going to be switching classes, so if you came here because you saw me playing Undead Warlock, we'll expect to see a whole lot of this young lady here as a gnome mage in the future. Now, other things to keep in mind is once you've chosen your race and your class combo, now you got to choose a server. Now, there's only a handful of servers that are being offered, at launch at least, for both NA and EU. There was a blue post showing what they're going to be. Now, at the time of this recording, this is still in the future, but you very likely might be coming across this after the fact. But for what it's worth, server name reservations, open up at 3 p.m. August 12th. That's 3 p.m. Pacific time, August 12th, where you can jump in. I believe you can reserve up to 3 characters, names, and kind of get your faction and your server locked down. If you're coming in after that, those name reservations, I assume, are going to remain open, so feel free to go ahead and start creating your characters and things of that nature ahead of time. But when it comes to choosing a server, there's a lot of things to think about, more than just, jumping in and trying to reserve a name. Bear in mind that if you're playing on NA, there is going to be a streamer server that's going to consist of people like Asmongold, Tips Out, Stay Safe TV, Soda Poppin', and some of the bigger names in the classic scene there. Now, if that's something you're interested in, because they're obviously going to be putting on, community events, potentially duel tournaments, there's going to be a lot of like world PvP and stuff going around that could be a lot of fun to be a part of. But on the flip side, there's definitely the potential for some drama, some griefing, people following them around, things of that nature. So sit down and really think about it. And I know a lot of other content creators have created YouTube videos discussing the pros and cons of jumping onto the streamer servers. So that's something to consider if that's something you're looking for. Obviously, also, you're now forced to make the decision yet again from the old days of World of Warcraft whether you want to play a PvP or a PvE server. War mode wasn't a thing in Classic and never will be, so if you log into PvP, you are always going to be available to get ganked while playing around the world. If you don't like that, PvE is available, but you won't be able to opt into War mode the way that you can now with bonus rewards and things of that nature. Personally, I would recommend PvP, even though it can be quite annoying at times. I think it makes the world feel more alive, vibrant, and thriving or whatever, but that's kind of up to you. You also have the choice as to whether you want to play on an RP server. I know a lot of role players out there are really looking forward to bringing back Classic RP and things of that nature. So take a look at the servers and really kind of get an idea, because those are obvious starting points as you're looking to go forward. Now, if you didn't have a chance to jump in on the beta and play around with a bunch of stuff, get things set up, or the stress test that came available here over the last little weekend, I assume, and again, we don't know for sure, that we'll be able to go into our server screen. Once you choose your server and you lock in your names for your given characters, you'll probably be able to get access to the system screen. So some things you can kind of do to kind of get ahead, get things set up is go into that menu there and set up your systems, get your graphics set up, get your sound set up, things of that nature, because you don't want to be fooling around with that at launch, trying to get those things going. If you can get that set up ahead of time, it certainly provides the opportunity to save you some time. Another thing that we want to look for as we're kind of going forward here is considering what your character is going to look like. If you're racing here and you're seeing this video before the name reservations come out, have an idea of what your character is going to look like, because you have the option to jump in there, create your character quickly, and lock in your name. If you want to toy around with that, Wowhead has a tool under the tools link for a dressing room where you can kind of play with your appearances and things of that nature. Get all that set up. Make sure you know exactly what it is that you want to do, what you want to play, who you want to be, so that your game is as immersive, ready, fun as you want it to be. Because as much as it's not a DPS increase or anything like that, you want the character to be the character that you want it to be. So take the time to get that knocked out and think about that ahead of time. Now, we've got all that done. We know what we're going to play. We know where we're going to play. We know how we're going to play in terms of what we're going to look like, what we're going to do, and things of that nature. So now we got to get into the nitty-gritty gameplay mechanics. One of the things you definitely want to consider doing early on is setting up your key bindings and setting up your system stuff. Now, some of this, if you are playing or you're looking at this on Sunday as this video is releasing, the stress test is still going. You can jump in, you can kind of preset some of this stuff, because the stress test is taking place on the Classic client, not on a beta or a PTR. So a lot of this stuff like keybinds, system setups will carry over. But also bear in mind some of that stuff like AutoLoot, I believe you have to select on each one of your characters. So maybe take a chance to peruse through the menus, be familiar, because if that's going to impair your leveling, it's going to slow you down, it's going to do some crazy stuff. Jump in there and get familiar with that, so that as soon as you create your character on launch day, you can blast through this stuff, get this stuff set up, and you get right into the gameplay instead of spending all your time doing admin. Something else to definitely be aware of is that scrolling text. It's probably not been in the game, or you're probably not even aware of it or forgot about it, but Classic launched where when you try to pick up a quest, it would slowly roll out all the text. If you want to just get in, get out, get your quest going, stuff like that, you definitely want to get rid of that scrolling text and get instant quest text enabled. Keybinds, like I said, do carry over, so definitely take the time if you can during the stress test Sunday or Monday morning here, the 11th, 12th, to get some of those keybinds set up, because again, you are playing on the Classic client, so that can save you a whole bunch of time. Now, if you've played any of the stress tests on the Classic client and you did set up keybinds, those should be saved. If you didn't have the opportunity to do that, though, just bear in mind you're probably going to have to set that up, because the Classic is a different game client than your retail game. It exists in a different folder. There may be ways to finagle and copy and paste stuff over, but I'm not 100% aware of it. Now that you got your keybind set up, though, everything's good to go. You're ready to play the game, but there's definitely some quality of life stuff that we can get set up ahead of time in terms of gameplay, and that is in the form of add-ons. Now, I'm not going to give you a top 10 list or anything like that. I'm simply going to walk you through some of the add-ons that I am using. We're going to show you what they do and why I like them. Now, I expect this community to grow a bunch as the game launches. I expect to see a whole lot more add-ons pop out, and I expect to see a lot more consistency or kind of a meta being formed around it. But add-ons are definitely a big part. So we're going to just start out here with AtlasLoot. AtlasLoot's an add-on because in World of Warcraft Classic, you don't have the Adventurer's Guide, so you don't necessarily know what loot drops from any given boss. So AtlasLoot is a pretty easy one you can pick up. You can throw it on there, and as you see, as we kind of scroll through here, you can choose a dungeon, you can choose bosses, and it'll show you the loot tables. Now, this version of AtlasLoot is pretty nice because it's got some consumable, craftable stuff, so you can actually look up, what can be made by different professions, and it'll give you an idea of what the materials are. So if you're looking to buy something to get something crafted, those options are available to you. It's also got some stuff for rep. So if you're looking to do the rep grind, see what's available, things of that nature, we'll be able to see that. It's a really, really handy tool that just kind of enhances your ability to prep and stuff, so you're not forced to use external stuff exclusively. It's just a quick reference guide in-game. And I really like it. I think it's quite useful in terms of just kind of reminding yourself what's available if you're looking at biz stuff. It's also got some cool little transmog options. There is no such thing as transmog, but if you're looking for specific sets of gear that look a certain way, you can kind of see the things on here. It's got your tier sets, as you can see on screen. Just a lot of things available to you that don't exist in the game that have, over time, because Blizzard saw the value of it, have been added into the default version of the game. But this was one of the add-ons that kind of forged the way in terms of making that kind of stuff available. So definitely check it out if that's something that sounds interesting to you. It's worth it, in my opinion. All right, so moving right along here, the next add-on we're going to talk about, I believe, is the Better Vendor Price add-on. Now, what this does is, in the game, it doesn't necessarily, if you have something in your bag, it won't show you what it sells for. I believe that's default in the game now again. But this Better Vendor Price one there's a vendor price add-on, but this is Better Vendor Price because it not only shows you what an individual item in your bag will sell for, but it also shows you how much it can stack to and how much a stack is worth. So if you're out in the world and you're doing a bunch of stuff, let's say your bags are full, and now you're forced to make an option like, hey, I need to ditch something so I can get this quest item, and I'm looking at the stuff in my bag. I can see what's going to be more valuable, because gold is a big part of Classic, but I can also see what's going to be more valuable as a stack. If I expect to continue to farm in a given zone, and you're going to pick up more, well, hey, this one stacks to 20, and it's worth more gold overall, so maybe I'll ditch the smaller stack, even though it's worth a little bit more individually, I'll be able to get more overall. Definitely something worth picking up. Another one here now we're going to look at is the Classic Aura Durations. Now, if you look up in the top left here, I've sheeped this guy, and you can see that there's kind of a shaded thing showing the duration remaining on the spell. If we don't have this on, it'll just show the icon so that you don't necessarily have an indicator of what's going on there. So the Classic Aura Durations is incredibly useful because it's gonna give you those duration ticks for the cooldown on stuff, especially if you're looking at CCs, if you're looking at dots, you're looking at any of those kinds of things, bleed effects, things of that nature. This add-on is super, super useful in terms of figuring out when you need to reapply stuff, since pandemic isn't a thing. Another one that pairs incredibly well with this is OmniCC. So now you can see, not only do I have the little icon showing there and the ticking down, but I get a numerical value. So I know exactly how it is. Instead of just kind of looking at the rate, I can go, oh, he's got 11 seconds left there. Oh, look, this, the slow from my Frostbolt's got 4 seconds left or whatever. Oh, my Frost Nova's got, however much time left. So that's super, super useful. Not only does OmniCC and Classic Aura Durations apply to debuffs on the enemy, but if we look down at the bottom, you can see Frost Nova, OmniCC is now giving me an actual numerical timer for the cooldown on my ability to cast the spell. So not all that stuff was baked in inherently in the game. These add-ons definitely enhance your ability to min-max, time your stuff, pay attention to what's going on there. So super, super useful. I think this next clip here, what we're going to show you, this is OmniCC without Classic Aura Durations. So if you don't have the Classic Aura Durations, watch, I'm going to cast a poly, and it doesn't have anything because it doesn't register the aura on the enemy there. So you just see that the poly's up, but you don't know how much time. You don't know how long that duration is going to last. Now, it does still show me the cooldown timer for my Frost Nova, but it doesn't show anything for the enemy. So if you've got bleeds, if you've got dots, if you've got slows, if you've got CC, things of that nature, the combination of Classic Aura Durations and OmniCC, incredibly useful for tracking that kind of stuff. So highly, highly, highly recommended. Another really useful add-on to take a look at is a damage meter of sorts. Now, what we're going to start out here with is details. Details is definitely functioning, so as you can see here, I've got it just in the middle of the screen, bigger. Obviously, the UI is terrible, but it's just to kind of show what's going on here. But details does give you that real-time data input or whatever. It's showing the damage you're doing, so you can, track your progress and things of that nature. I ran it against the actual combat log. I killed a whole bunch of mobs. It was perfectly on every single time. But the one thing that you'll notice is when I scrolled over there, right now, details will show you your total damage, but it's not giving any sort of spell breakdowns. So that's something to keep in mind, is that you're not getting spell breakdowns just yet, which can be a little bit frustrating. I know SCADA, there's a version that exists out there somewhere that does give spell breakdowns. I haven't been able to find it. I expect details to be updating as time goes on, but just bear in mind that if you're looking to see, how hard is my frostbolt hitting versus my firebolt, or how well are my dots ticking, or where's my damage coming from, details doesn't have that functionality built in just yet. It's just giving total damage, but I did try it in groups and stuff. It tracks other players' damage, it tracks my damage, but you can see, there's nothing being shown in terms of the spell breakdown, so expect that in the future. I tried some versions of SCADA. I couldn't get one that worked. I tried some versions of Recount, and I couldn't get that to work either, but expect, your favorite damage meter to work. Now, this next one here is Omen. It's a threat meter that's going to be incredibly useful. This little test shows you kind of what it looks like, so you can track how your threat's doing, because tank threat was a very, very big deal in Classic. Thus far, Omen hasn't been working for me. I don't know if I have it set up incorrectly, if the people that I was playing with just don't have it installed, and it requires a communication between the clients, but I would expect a functioning threat meter, whether it be Omen or KTM or one of the other threat meters to come along at some point, but right now I don't have one working. Now, this next one, Real Mob Health version 2.2 is what I use. As you can see, it starts out with 100 health because it doesn't know. But now once I attack it, it's registering damage done. It's actually giving mob health. Now, if you were looking at the previous clips when we were testing the OmniCC and stuff, it was just a bar that just went down. You had no idea how healthy the mob was or what was going on there. You just oh, look, it looks about half health. Well, this Real Mob Health version 2.2, rather, it will learn as you kill stuff what the health of given mobs at given levels are, and then it'll give you actual health percentages and actual percentage or health in hit points. Really nice if you're trying to min-max, what your spells are, especially if you're going to be doing downrank spells and stuff of that nature. It can be very, very useful in terms of your just leveling and questing and things of that nature. So yeah, super useful. Definitely take a look. Something, that I like. The next one here is TomTom. So we're going to die. Let that boar kill us. You can see it's got the cool little arrows. So just like retail, if you use TomTom for coordinates and things of that nature, it'll give you arrows to your corpse. You can set up your waypoints. You can do all that kind of stuff. Seems to be completely functional. So useful add-on there. As we see on the map here, as we move around, you've got the cursor location and the player location on the top. It's always nice to have coordinates just in case something's going on. People are saying, hey, world PvP, X coordinate, Y coordinate, rare mob, whatever. Especially if you're not familiar, having a coordinates add-on is worth it in my opinion. And TomTom seems to be working quite well. It's what I use in retail. I like the way it's set up. It seems to be functional here. Deadly Boss Mods has a port, as you can see here. We're just testing. It seems to be functional. It's got the bars, it's got the range finder, it's got all that stuff. I have no idea if it actually works in raid, because we've had zero chance to raid test. So may or may not work, something worth picking up. But the next one we're going to look at here is Questie. Questie's super nice in terms of smoothing out your questing experience. As we talked about in my previous video, questing didn't give you icons on the map. So what Questie does is it fills in. It tells you where mobs for the things are found. It shows you where the quest hubs are, so you know where to go pick quests up. You can see it across the world. There's a bunch of quests that I'm eligible for, ones that are within my range that'll still give me XP, whether they're available or not because of change and things of that nature. So you can see all that stuff on the map. It'll also show up on the mobs. Now, keep in mind, once you've got all these add-ons locked in, you're ready to go. Launch day comes. Now, this is just the stress test. You can see the high volume of people that are here. So if you're looking at one of those websites like Joanne's or whatever that has all these questing routes, those are super nice. Definitely take a look. Get a feel for what your questing route's going to be. Get a feel for what quests you want to do, where you want to go, what zones. But bear in mind that a lot of those like world record paces, the stuff that exists out there, the guides that exist, bank on the fact that they were created on private servers and they just kind of did them on their leisure. They weren't competing with this insane volume of people. So sometimes your questing is going to be slowed down or altered a bit. Now, bear in mind, Blizzard did announce in a blue post recently that dynamic respawns, something that wasn't really a thing in the beta, and I don't really remember from Classic. Apparently, it was in the game in version 1.12, and on the beta, it was bugged. So they finally figured out the bug, and they've got it functioning, so you can see the respawn times are quite good. So expect these early areas to be absolutely chaotic, but the respawns to be relatively favorable in terms of your questing. At that point in time, the best thing I can say is if you've done these kinds of things, you've got all your add-on set up, you've got all your your system stuff set up, you know what you're going to play, you know where you're going to play. The best thing you can do now is just get in the game and play it. Having that idea in terms of where you're going to go, questing, pathing, what quests you want to do, what zones you want to do is definitely helpful. It can definitely speed your whole run up. It can get you to max level quicker. But at the end of the day, if you do these kinds of things, you get them set up into your folder and things of that nature, you're going to be A-okay going into launch, and you're going to be ready to just enjoy the game that is Classic. So hopefully some of these add-ons, some of the stuff we talked about here was helpful to you. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. If you do, please feel free to subscribe to my channel. It really helps me out, helps people find me so that other people can find this video. If you like the video specifically, please give it a like. And feel free to throw a comment and tell me what you like or what you want to see in terms of other future Classic content. So thanks again for tuning in. Good luck with your adventures in the older version of Azeroth, and have a great day. Cheers.